I'm going to open tonight's information session with a presentation, just looking a little bit at the type of applicant we're looking for and what the course is about and the application process. So, and then I'll hand you over to my colleague, Rosemary, who is one of our senior program managers, and to our panel, Dr. Quentin Crowley, our academic lead, and Joanne, our program coordinator. So before I hand you over, I'll take you through this presentation, the Postgraduate Certificate Level 9 on Climate Entrepreneurship. So this course is looking at innovation and entrepreneurship in relation to climate change. And when we look at innovation in Trinity, we are the first in Europe for patient citations. There have been 500 industry partnerships in the last 5 years with over 100 million in annual research income. And there have been 140 licenses in the last 5 years. When we look at entrepreneurship in Trinity, we are ranked first in Europe for graduate entrepreneurship and 100 campus companies that have generated 300 products and 1.4 billion in revenue. We have 75 student companies in the last 5 years, raising 5 million in investment. When we look at innovation and entrepreneurship together, they allow us to imagine and identify new opportunities, collaborate with the power of diversity, and take action and make a positive impact on the world. So, who is this course for? Well, it's for graduates from a diverse range of backgrounds who have an interest in tackling climate change and supporting environmental sustainability. Individuals interested in creating a network or community that focuses on tackling the issues relating to climate change. For those who are or wish to be change makers, activists, and entrepreneurs. For individuals seeking a change in career direction, and for those seeking to expand their skills base and turn their ideas into solutions. And what does this course offer? Well, it offers a Level 9 National Framework Qualification from Trinity College Dublin, a unique combination of subject-specific, transferable and entrepreneurial skills, teamworking, leadership, presentation and communication skills, skills to plan and develop a sustainable venture that contributes to climate change mitigation, and access to a range of career development supports within Trinity. So the course themes, there are 3 modules on this course, and we look at those in a little more detail later on. But the 3 modules are 10 credits each, and they are systems innovation for positive climate action, entrepreneurship opportunities in climate adaptation and mitigation, and climate enterprise development. How the program works? Well, it's delivered part-time online every Tuesday and Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. and it runs from the 23rd of March to the 28th of July this year. Teaching and learning styles. Well, this is adult learning, and as such, it is experiential learning environment with workshops, master classes, group projects, and presentations. Students will work in teams on designing solutions to climate wicked problem, to learn to apply creative and innovative problem-solving techniques in practice, to understand the iterative process, learning from failure and learning to fail forward, and peer-to-peer learning will be a big focus of this course as well. And finally, no exams, so that continuous assessment again. This slide shows just some of the businesses that we have worked with in the past. So at Trinity and Tangent, especially, we're all about collaboration, the power of diversity and coming together to problem solve. So that just gives you a taste of some of the businesses that we have collaborated with in the past. The learning outcomes. So you will analyse theoretical concepts associated with systems innovation and entrepreneurship in relation to climate change. Develop strategies and action plans in response to high impact climate challenges. Communicate and interact with multiple stakeholders to support positive climate action. enable behavioral changes and explain their influence as change makers in complex climate systems, evaluate ethical, social, commercial, and political factors in decision-making to support climate entrepreneurship. Who is eligible? So there's a whole host of eligibility criteria on the Springboard website, but we're looking for graduates who hold a level 8 bachelor's degree with a minimum grade of 2.1 or higher. For those that don't have that, that would still like to apply, you can do so as an RPL candidate, which is recognition of prior learning, and those RPLs are assessed on a case-by-case basis. It's for individuals in receipt of a social welfare payment, for those that are self-employed or in employment, and if so, you would pay 10% of the course fee, which is €375 upon registering with Trinity for the course. There is residency eligibility criteria, and that is that you need to have lived in the EU 3 of the last 5 years prior to applying for the course. And finally, for returners, those that have been out of the workplace for some time due to caring obligations and are now looking to upskill. And if so, you must sign a declaration document, and that is downloadable on the Springboard website, or you can contact myself. The admission requirements. So these are the documents that you need to upload to the Springboard website before we can assess your application, and we can only assess completed applications. You need those 6 documents: a copy of your transcript or some document that shows that you have that level 8 bachelor's degree with a minimum 2.1 grade or higher. So it should show that. Again, RPLs will be considered. You need your CV, and that should demonstrate your skills and experience and how they match the course. An expression of interest, so approximately 500 words on why you want to do the course and what you hope to get out of the course. 2 references, that can be 1 academic and 1 professional, or 2 academic, 2 professional, but they should really speak to why you'd be a good candidate for the course. Finally, your eligibility details. So you would need to upload a copy of a document that supports your employment status, or if you're on a social welfare payment, something like that, or again, that declaration document that you can download on the Springboard website. All our courses are on springboardcourses.ie, and it is through there that you need to apply. The closing date for application is the 11th of February 2021, and I cannot stress enough that you should apply early and not leave it to the last minute. There's quite a lot of work in assessing applications. There's quite a lot of interest in this course, so please do get those documents up on the Springboard website so that we can continue to assess and get back to you then shortly after the closing date with the outcome of your application. That wraps it up from me. If you have any questions in relation to the application or your own status, a document maybe, send them to me and I will answer them in turn. I or one of my colleagues. All queries go to springboard@tcd.ie, or you can give me a call on 086 032 0487 and I can talk to you there. The last link there is the direct link to the Springboard website. You click on that and it will bring you directly to Climate Entrepreneurship, where you can start your application, upload those 6 documents, and you're good to go. I'm going to hand you over to Rosemary Danaher now, and she's going to chat to Quinton and Joanne a little bit more about the course. There will be an opportunity for you, the audience, to ask questions, and I would encourage you to do so in the chat box, and we'll pose them to our panel. And thank you guys for joining us this evening, and Rosemary, I'll hand over to you.
Great, thank you, Jane, both for the introduction and for that really informative presentation. I'd like to just reiterate our welcome to all the audience and indeed our panel members, who I'll be introducing you to in a moment. Thank you for taking the time to join us, first of all, on this Thursday evening. My name is Rosemary Danaher. I am a Senior Programme Manager here in Tangent, Trinity's Ideas Workspace. So this evening, I guess, provides us with an opportunity to learn more about this wonderful course, this innovative postgraduate certificate in climate entrepreneurship, what the course is all about, and we'll develop some of the themes that Jane mentioned in the presentation, and I guess delve deeper into the course and what the course is about. our aim this evening is really that whatever your role or industry or sector, that you learn something about this course and perhaps how it might be of benefit to you in your organizational setting or your business context. And ultimately, hopefully, decide is this course for you, or that we could help you on that decision-making process. So before we delve in and start with the panel introductions, I'd just like to give you an idea of what to expect over the next, I suppose, 40 minutes or so. We'll be keeping an eye on time just to make sure that we don't run over. So we'll take a few moments now to introduce our panel members and just briefly introduce themselves and their role, I suppose, in the program and program delivery. I've got some questions then about the program that I'll put to our panel. We'll then, as Jane said, open up the floor so that all of you listening have an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have, maybe clarify something that we've talked about, anything that you're unsure of. As I said, and hopefully help you decide, is this the right program for you at this time? Just to say, as Jane mentioned, you can pop your questions into the chat box at any time. We'll answer them all at the end, and any that we can't answer or anything that, maybe it needs a more in-depth answer, maybe, on an individual basis, we can do that. We'll follow up with that offline as well. So if that sounds good to everybody, we'll get started with the introductions. Quentin, I might go to you first.
Hi, everybody. Very welcome. Thanks, Jane and Rosemary, for the introductions. My name is Quentin Crowley. I'm an associate professor in Trinity College within the School of Natural Sciences. I'm also the director of Trinity's Centre for the Environment, which is a research and teaching centre. And I have the pleasure of working with Tangent this academic year as course director for this new course. And I have to say, I'm very excited about getting started on this.
Thank you, Quinton. And Joanne.
Hi, I'm Joanne Corley and I'm the program coordinator. So I'll be, guiding those of you who join the course. I'll be guiding you through the course as you take it, and I'll be there to answer questions or help out with anything as it goes along.
Thank you, Joanne. And so much more I'm going to add when I see the work that our program coordinators do with our groups of students. Thank you both, and you're both very welcome as well. So I'm going to start, Quentin, I might direct this to you in the first instance. So the School of Natural Sciences has partnered with Tangent to develop and deliver this really innovative and very exciting, I should say, postgraduate certificate in climate entrepreneurship. So who should apply to do this program? I know Jane touched on it earlier, but for those listening in this evening who may be considering applying to the program, why would I want to do it?
Yes, good question. So let me first start by saying that, within the School of Natural Sciences, we're very excited to partner with Trinity to offer this new course. And we see this as a really great opportunity to combine our respective skills and expertise to an area which is really very important. It's one of emerging interest, not just locally, but globally. And there's a reason why I mention that, because, when you asked about who should apply for this program, well, when we talk about climate change, it comes with a kind of a realization that climate change can impact many, many different aspects of our lives, our day-to-day activities. And whereas some of this might be obvious, if we think about long-term climate changes, we've experienced increased storm strength and frequency in Ireland, summer droughts, which have brought water shortages to parts of the country. And this has an impact on agriculture and food supply and water supply, domestic water supply and industry, etc. These kinds of effects are quite obvious. We can see these, but there are other effects which are more subtle, and they may disproportionately affect more vulnerable parts of our society. So, really, the reason I mention this is that we're all somehow affected by climate change. And you might ask the question, well, really, what can we do about it? So, coming back to your question specifically, this course will be of interest to people who are curious to gain some kind of understanding of the value of entrepreneurship and innovation in terms of not just mitigating, but also adapting to the effects of climate change. So I would say, the course presents a great opportunity for those of you who may be aspiring entrepreneurs to position yourselves as some kind of local leader within your community or maybe your organization in terms of responding to the challenges of climate change.
Excellent.
And I'd say, if I may, on a practical level,
yes,
applicants don't need to have a subject-specific or domain-specific knowledge of climate change, or for that matter, environmental sustainability to benefit from the course. And in fact, really we welcome applications from all different kinds of disciplines, all different backgrounds and demographics. And for us, an exciting part of the course is the diversity of applicants that we hope we will attract. And we see this as one of the key strengths of the course, as it helps to demonstrate the benefits of a really truly multidisciplinary approach in terms of how society can work together towards this common goal.
That's super, Quentin. And I suppose we can just confirm that from the courses that we run in Tangent, I think we've many, I suppose, key differentiators and strengths, but one of them is that diversity of backgrounds, of educational experience and of educational level, and even roles and sectors and industries, and what that brings to the classroom. So I think it's worth, I suppose, highlighting that applications, we don't expect applications to come from any one particular, as you said, subject area or discipline, and they're all assessed individually. So we'll be expecting and hoping to see a range of applicants from different backgrounds. Thanks, Quentin. Jane mentioned briefly earlier that the students will study 3 different modules. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and maybe briefly highlight some of the topic areas that the students will study on the programme?
Sure, yes. So as we heard in Jane's presentation, there are 3 individual modules. Each of these have 10 credits. So the total course has 30 ECTS, 30 credits in total. So the 3 modules that Jane mentioned are, number 1 is Systems Innovation for Positive Climate Action. This is followed by Module 2, Entrepreneurship Opportunities in Climate Adaptation and Mitigation, which in turn is followed by Module 3, Climate Enterprise Development. So what I can do is I can very briefly just give a quick synopsis about each of these in turn. The first module, Systems Innovation for Positive Climate Action, this will explore some of the principles and practices associated with something called systems thinking, and particularly apply this within the context of climate change. So the whole concept of systems thinking approach, it's been around for quite a while now, and it's been utilized in many different challenges or sectors. It's very useful at trying to see the bigger picture, by having this vision of the whole complete system and how all these individual components might interact or affect each other. So when we adopt this kind of systems view of things, it can really help us to better understand some really complex interrelationships of whatever that system may be. So you may be talking about food systems and agriculture, you may be talking about climate systems, or you may think of aspects of society as a system, or us within a particular system. So this first module is all about, adopting this systems innovation mindset and applying this to study climate change to really kind of support creativity in reaching some kind of positive climate action. So I can say a bit about the other 2 modules also. So number 2 was the Entrepreneurship Opportunities in Climate Adaptation and Mitigation. So when developing this course, we engage with a lot of different stakeholders, a lot of different sectors. And one thing that really came across to us was that a lot of people really feel at a loss in knowing how to tackle climate change. And this question constantly came up as, we know it's there, but what can I personally, what can we do about it? So this second module really is taking this as a starting point and is designed to enable students to identify opportunities for entrepreneurship. Climate change can be quite a scary thing, and it can be quite enigmatic in how we can deal with this. But the module aims to help the students to develop the kind of entrepreneurship skills that can positively impact on climate change. And then thirdly, the third module, climate enterprise development. For this module, it will introduce the processes involved in creating or leading or perhaps scaling an entrepreneurial startup, a venture, developing sustainable green business, for instance. And these kinds of skills, they're extremely useful, whether you want to start your own company or not. If you are in employment within an organization, you can also use these skills to help that organization adopt the kinds of strategies which can help to mitigate or adapt to the effects of climate change. So that's as brief as I can make it with the description of the three modules. So I hope that's useful.
That's really useful, Quentin, and I've learned a lot just in those couple of minutes. To the point where I do want to know more. No, that's great. Thank you. And if anybody has any further questions, as I said, they can pop them into the chat and we can delve further if somebody wants to. So really appreciate that. And it does sound incredibly interesting. Joanne, there are no exams on the programme, and that's normally met with a yay or a collective sigh of relief from our students. So what can students then expect in terms of their assessments?
Yeah. So in terms of the assignments, the students will be learning communication skills, written skills, and presentation skills. And it'll all be supported through learning and development. And so for each module has a project, a presentation, some written work, and a reflection. And it's all continuous assessment. And we found in the past students have really enjoyed the group work and have gotten a lot out of doing the assignments, for example, the group work and the reflections. There's huge learning in that. So it is all manageable, and you're supported the whole way through it, so.
Excellent. Quentin, I don't know if you have anything to add to that or?
Sure, yes. So when we've designed this course, and we've thought about assessment, we're really keen to adopt different kind of assessment strategies because people have different kinds of skill sets. And, one person might be better at giving presentations, another person might be better at written presentations, or maybe group work is your particular forte. So, we're really keen to explore all these different types of assessment to really give individual people an opportunity to display themselves at their best. So we're also mindful that some people who take this course may have limited time for coursework. They may have family commitments. At the moment, everyone's at home, the schools are closed, people with families and homeschooling, this is very time consuming, it can be time consuming. And as with other tangent courses, we've used a similar model for assessments, which we know works. And we've used this successfully for other part-time evening courses. So I wouldn't want people to be put off from making an application if they're worried about the level of coursework and assignments. It should be very manageable.
Great, that's great, thank you. And another question probably for you, Quentin, just like an overview of who will deliver the course and maybe a follow-up question in terms of specific links to industry or guest speakers or practitioners in the sector. Could you give us a little bit further information on that? Yes,
sure. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm the course director, but I won't be delivering all of the course content. We've invited a range of guest contributors. Many of them are actually from outside university environment and from outside Trinity College. And I have to say that the response has been really incredible. We've been quite overwhelmed with the positive reaction and responses we've got from everybody we've contacted. So people are very, very keen to contribute. And this gives the course an added element, and that we're going to hear from many different sectors, representatives from industry, covering areas such as energy use, energy systems, retrofitting, innovation in relation to carbon innovation, agriculture, bioeconomy, let me think, resources and utilities. So for instance, water supplies, urban development, smart cities, food systems, and of course, climate action in relation to the corporate world. So that's kind of a flavor or synopsis. I'm sure there are others. They're the ones I can think of off the top of my head. So what I would add also, to that is that aspects of this course are very much demand-led by you, the students. And what this means is that there's some kind of flexibility to choose topics that you're really passionate about. It doesn't mean that the entire course is like this or all the modules, but there are aspects of some of the coursework where you can really choose the subject area to focus on. So we will work with you to find any additional industry support above and beyond the invited contributors and invited speakers that you may need to help you to fully develop your ideas on your own climate entrepreneurship journey.
Great, thank you, Quentin. Quinton, another question, and in fairness, Quentin, you've touched on it there, but it's one we always get asked time again. So I was just going to preempt it by asking it before it comes up in the chat box. I might direct this one to you, Joanne. So a lot of people, will be working full time, and as Quentin alluded to, double or triple jobbing at the moment, given our circumstances. And a question we get asked all the time is, will I be able to complete the course, while continuing to work? And I suppose I'd like to put it to you and also maybe outline in terms of the support, because as program coordinator on our other tangent courses, you're with the students, day in, day out, maybe just to highlight the support that students have on their learning journey, just maybe to allay any fears there.
Yeah. Well, the course is specifically designed for people who are working. So in designing it, we included inputs from hundreds of past students, and that's enabled us to deliver a student-focused course, and even through the COVID restrictions. What that means is the layout of the course and the assignments are all focused on successful completion. And then there are a huge amount of online supports and direct peer communications. And, any students that have issues can come to me. Everything can be, worked out as we go along. And yeah, so it's made for people who are working, it's been built that way, designed that way.
Yeah, and I suppose just to say that a lot of the courses in tangent, a lot of our students are working full time and are completing part-time courses successfully. So we have plenty of experiences, and as said, experienced coordinators like Joanne looking after our students on the way. I see questions there in the chat box, which we'll get to in a moment. If anybody has any questions, please pop them in and we'll get to them. But just one extra question there. That somebody asked in terms of the transversal skills that the students will hopefully gain while on the program. I don't know, Quentin, if you want to say a little bit about that.
Yes, it's a good question. So a lot of the skills which students will acquire in this course are very much transferable skills and soft skills. So it's possible, for instance, in somebody's initial degree in bachelor's, they might not have conducted much group work, so communication, presentation skills, knowing how they can best contribute to a team. I mentioned the whole systems thinking and systems innovation, and really the focus for this course is on climate entrepreneurship. But when you adopt this systems thinking methodology, it can be applied to virtually anything. And I see that as a very strong, very key transferable skill. So there are many, those are a few I've listed.
Great, thank you, Quentin. So Jane, I might hand back to you for the moment. If I think of anything else or if I get anything else direct, I'll certainly jump in. But I see a couple of questions there in the chat box that we might take over now.
Yes, thanks, Rosemary, and thanks, Quentin and Joanne, and to all our attendees for your questions. So I've been answering a lot of them, and some of them yet to be answered, and we can go over some of the answers that I have given, if there's any ambiguity there. So the first one, Quentin, I might put to you, does any of the content apply to social enterprises or only orientated for-profit enterprise?
No, it's very open. The principles on the course could equally be applied to social enterprise. We're very mindful of that. So it could be, a social enterprise, it could be a commercial entity, and really, these are often seen as kind of opposing things, but a key attribute of what this course is hoping to engage with students is that the two aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, that you can have a prosperous economy, a successful business, but it can still contribute to climate action principles. And that's a real change in mindset. But it is possible to have a company which makes profit, but is adopting this kind of attitude for climate action or mitigation. But there'd be nothing stopping somebody from applying the same principles to a social enterprise or not for-profit organization, sure.
Perfect, thank you for that. In addition to the 4 hours a week online, how much additional time would you suggest would be a realistic commitment? Joanne, maybe you would take that one?
Yeah, as I say, Quinton, maybe you could take that actually.
Good question. I think for different modules and at different times, there will certainly be crunch periods, you know, so some weeks there'll be more time than others. I wouldn't really want to put an absolute number on it because, you know, it will vary, but we're mindful that it should be manageable in tandem with other activities, whether it's, you know, home life, work life, etc. And this is why I mentioned that we based this model of coursework and assessment on previous successful evening courses. It's difficult to put an absolute number on it. And also it'll depend on somebody's background, you know, so some people may need to spend more time on assignments than others. It's difficult to put an exact number on it, but we've designed it so it should be very manageable with other activities.
And I might just jump in there and say as well, I suppose one of the key pieces of advice we give to students starting out on a journey, well, any, you know, learning journey or program is, you know, to keep up with it as it goes. So obviously attendance will be particularly important, you know, that people attend all the sessions, even if they're online. And if they can't, to keep up with them weekly, because I think that's sometimes where students do fall into difficulty, you know, where there's a build up then of, you know, maybe having to, you know, engage with the material, maybe an assessment piece at the end of it. And as Quentin said, like the assessments are ongoing. So I suppose it's like everything, if we can take it in bite-sized chunks and keep on top of it as we go, you know, most people will find it manageable, but it really does depend. And some people will find some topic areas and some modules easier and will spend less time on them, and then vice versa. So, but again, manageable, you know, within the time frame and supported all the way. I suppose that's just a key message we'd like to get across.
I could add actually to that, in terms of ECTS, the course credits, so it's 3 by 10 credit modules. 10 credits is roughly equivalent to 250 student effort hours, it's called. So 30 ECTS would be around 750. So that's, you know, in terms of like a roundabout amount of time, which also includes time spent in the course. And it's a rough estimate. For some, you know, it might be less, for some it might be a bit more, but that's in terms of the European credit transfer system, that's how it's described. So 30 credits would be about 750 effort hours.
Thanks, Quentin. It's good to know. Okay. Will there be any in-person portions of the course, COVID permitting, or is it 100% virtual? It is designed to be 100% delivered online. So yes, that is not really COVID dependent. It's going to be delivered online.
There may also be, depending on circumstances we're in at the time, students who register for the course will be registered Trinity students and will have Trinity IDs. So if it's a situation where presence on campus is permitted, you know, with government guidelines, although the formal teaching will be online, it may be possible for you to meet as a group to co-locate. So if it's a group of students who are based in Dublin, you can come onto campus and meet as a group, COVID permitting.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's absolutely the case. And you all get your student cards sent out to you from Academic Registry once registered for the course, and the same rights as all Trinity students. So I graduated over 12 months ago and I have a qualification from the UK in the interim. Am I eligible to apply? So yes, recent graduates have to wait 12 months in order to apply to a Springboard course, but that's fine. If you have a further qualification from the UK, you are still eligible to apply. So just have a read up of the eligibility criteria, because there's a host of it on the Springboard website. Have a read of it there and then come back to me on springboard@tcd.ie if you have any questions regarding eligibility. Another one here, on completion of the course, do you offer support that helps candidates to establish themselves in the climate industry? Again, maybe Quentin, I might.
Yes, sure. Very good question again. Tangent has worked with startups over the last few years, and in particular has worked with a European funder called Climate KIC, KIC, stands for Knowledge Innovation Community. And Tangent have hosted a number of accelerator programs to help startups on their journey. So depending on the technology readiness level of whatever innovation or entrepreneurship that you're proposing, something like that may or may not be suitable for you. But in terms of general mentorship, then this can also be made available to you in terms of advice on your early career journey.
And moving over to the chat, just there's a question here. With a postgrad diploma in community practice and a master's degree in activism, would there be a lot of overlap already, especially regarding presentation and writing skills, for example? Quentin, I put that one, I know I put most of them to you, but...
That's fine, I'm happy to answer that. Yeah, good question. So what we find with these kinds of courses, I have been engaged in teaching and delivering a summer school in climate innovation for the last 4 years, which is offered globally. Actually, it's the world's largest summer school in climate innovation. And we find that people have different kinds of skill sets, different kinds of aptitudes, different kinds of experiences, but there's always a place for somebody in a team. So if you feel that you're particularly strong in presentation and writing skills, then that's the skill set you can bring to your team. And that helps everybody within your team. So I think regardless of your background and your level of skills in a particular area, then there's a place for you on the course and within this team, particularly in the teamwork.
Excellent. One here, how many student places are available on the course? So that is 42. We have 42 funded places by Springboard on this course.
Sorry, Jen, I might just add to that, and I know you mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to mention it again. We are traditionally always oversubscribed for our courses, so it just would be really, really important that if it's a course that you think you would like to take, to get an application in as early as possible. Like, every application has to be assessed individually. There are a number of pieces of documentation that goes with that. There's a time involved in that. And it's just really important that, because obviously we don't know that you're interested until you make that application. So you won't even be on our radar, if you like, until you do that. And it can't be assessed until a full application is made. So I suppose it's just not an easy answer. So we'd ask people, maybe after tonight's webinar, to start thinking about it, maybe get in touch if you're seriously thinking about it. We can help you, on that process of applying. If you have any questions, I'm sure we can answer them. But to get the application in as soon as possible will be our ask, I guess, if you're serious about taking the program.
Yeah, absolutely. There is, as Rosemary said, a lot of work involved, and we want to make sure that each application is given the right time, which it will be, to be assessed and so on. But also there's a lot of involved in getting you registered then for the course. So early application strongly encouraged. Can I do this course while also beginning another form of third level education, which begins in 2021? I think send me the details of that to springboard@tcd.ie, or read again the eligibility criteria. So possibly, yes, you can apply, but there's in some cases, if you're in the middle of a master's or a PhD, it can be difficult. So I would advise you to look at the eligibility on Springboard and maybe send me your query. I see here that we have 33 questions in the Q&A, and it's quite possible that we may not get to them all this evening. We'll keep going. But again, just to say to our attendees that any that we don't get to answer, we will follow up with after this session ends, to bear that in mind. Okay, go down a little further, just bear with me. I'm skipping over some questions that have already been answered here, and yes, everything is online. Will there be a concrete writing business plan pitching idea? Quentin,
Yes.
perhaps you'll answer that one.
Would you like me to answer that?
Please, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, so within the final module, teams will deliver a pitch, and this is a real pitch in terms of an entrepreneurship innovation idea. So you will receive training along the way within that module, and it is intended to make it as real as possible. So you might think of it as something that is kind of abstract, but it should be something that's very real, that if you wished to, you could take it further after the course. So yes, there will be some pitching involved.
Great. Another question is 100% attendance mandatory. We ask that students be there 100% of the time due to the level of group work and student engagement on the course. However, it is a level 9, it's part of the criteria for a level 9 qualification that you're there at least 80% of the time. So between 80 and we would encourage 100. And lots of application queries here, and I can answer them again if I don't get to them all now. You mentioned that each module has a project and presentation. Are these projects and presentations individual or group focused?
I can take that, Jane.
Sure.
There's a balance between group work and individual work throughout the course. So in each module, at the end of each module, there's a reflective piece that you have to write. And that's, of course, is individual. But for module 1, it's group work. It's the 2 projects, the pitch and the presentation are both group work. And then in the second module, it's a group pitch, but it's an individual project. And then it's all individual in the final module. So that's kind of the layout of the group versus individual work.
Thanks, Joanne. That's brilliant.
I'm sorry, Jane, I might just jump in there and give you a chance to run through your questions there and see what ones you need to answer, because I know some of them may be individual and you may need to answer them individually, because there's a couple here in the chat, just that they're related. So it might be helpful to group them. So I have a question here about the balance between group work and individual. Thanks, Joanne, has answered that. Is it expected that group work will be done virtually as well? Yes, it is. I mean, as Jane said, you know, given the time that we were developing the course, we did need to develop it fully online, in line with, you know, government restrictions and Trinity directives. So yes, but we've ran a number of courses now successfully online over the last year. After a bit of a baptism of fire, you know, we're probably on our 4th or 5th course running completely online that also involves group work. So, you know, we have different virtual learning environments that we use. We use a mixture in some cases where we use breakout rooms and students are asked to work, you know, on their group, within their group and their group pitch within teams. And we've huge experience of managing that at this stage. So the answer to that is yes. You will. There was just a question then in terms of, is the course suitable for one specific focus area, or is it more suitable for a generalist? So I'm going to say, and Quinton can disagree or contradict me, that it's suitable for either. People do come into our courses with a specific, you know, maybe idea or area in mind, but equally the course will be delivered from a generalist context. Quinton, I don't know whether you wanted to add something to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, Rosemary. A lot of people will come with a particular interest, obviously. Some people may actually have an entrepreneurial idea already that they're incubating. I would suggest or encourage you to have an open mind, because you may discover something else completely on the course, or you may decide to go with your preliminary idea of area of interest. So both, yeah, you know, somebody who has very singular vision about where they want to go, and others who just may be more generally interested in the subject. I'd say it suits both.
Excellent. Jane, I'll hand back over to you.
Okay, thanks, Rosemary. So somebody here has a level 7 and is wondering what circumstances is it possible for them to be accepted. So as I say, RPL applicants, and that's recognition of prior learning, applicants can apply and will be assessed. There are less places available, but upload a copy of your highest qualification if you have one, and detail your experience, both educational and professional, on your CV, and we will assess that as an RPL applicant. Will there be any focus on how to raise investment for a potential startup or a chance to be introduced to potential investors?
yes is the simple answer. So again, your final module will deal with aspects of that. You'll be introduced to the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Ireland. You'll be talked through the different types of frameworks or support mechanisms which are there to help startups financially.
Will completing the course be helpful in terms of finding a new role in the emerging and quickly growing green smart economy?
Very much so. I mean, when we developed the course, we were thinking about future skills needs, future markets, future jobs, and we see this as a really crucial area moving forward, not just in Ireland, but globally. So it's great that we were able to respond quite quickly and develop this over the last year, really. And we see this as an area of emerging educational and business opportunities. So very much so. I think if this is an area which interests you, it's going to position you very well within future economies.
And we have a question here that tourism it's specifically wasn't mentioned, and would this course deal in maybe sustainable tourism, or would it be better to do a course that kind of specializes in tourism, Quentin?
Well, I can tell you as it stands, we don't have any guest contributors who are specifically addressing tourism. But if you're interested in the course and you're interested in pursuing the whole concept of sustainable tourism, this is something that you can tackle in terms of some of your group work. So I mentioned the whole systems innovation and systems thinking. You might like to think about tourism systems in Ireland and how can these be made more sustainable. So by learning about the systems innovation, systems thinking approach, and then applying it to your subject area is something which is would still be beneficial to you.
Great. And for Luke, who finished his master's in 2020, yes, you are eligible to apply. It's only if you finished your undergraduate degree, you need to wait 12 months before applying for a Springboard funded course. Will the evening sessions be available online? Yes, they will. We endeavour to record all sessions, but as I say, we would like you to be there as much as possible, and 80% is a Springboard requirement.
Can I just add to that, Jane? Sorry, just maybe I'm keeping an eye on the other chat box, and a few of those questions are coming up around if I have meetings or work commitments and I can't attend, which is obviously really understandable. And, you know, life goes on. The nature of the courses in Tangent are quite different than maybe other academic programs that you may have taken in the past. So a lot of it will be experiential learning, where there will be huge involvement from students. And again, Quentin, you know, may want to add something to this, but it's so absolutely, you know, we understand that people can't always be there, and the sessions are recorded. Given as well, I suppose, the emphasis on group work, it's difficult to miss a lot of sessions, I suppose, and then keep up with the learning. So, you know, we would advise people if they can, you know, the schedule is there, if they look across and there's a certain number of dates that they can't do, maybe just come and talk to us, you know, beforehand at the start or after applying, so that, you know, we can work through that. Attendance for the Springboard funding at 80% is mandatory, so that's the minimum that we need students to attend. But really, I suppose from an individual perspective and a learning and teaching and learning perspective, you know, we would expect students to be in attendance, you know, really as much as they can. It doesn't benefit either the group, the larger group, like the cohort of students, or the individual when that doesn't happen. So I'd like to emphasize that maybe just at the outset.
Thanks, Rosemary. There was a confusion here earlier, Quentin, you mentioned that 30 credits was equal to approximately 750 student hours. Is that right? Or they're saying for 4 months, that's 60 hours a week. Is that correct?
Yeah, perhaps I confused things by mentioning it. So in terms of the European credit system, that's the allocation. It doesn't mean that that's how much time you spend on it. But that's kind of like a maximum allowed amount of time. We don't anticipate that you'll be spending anything near 60 hours a week on the course. It's just, you know, in terms of the European education system, that would be the maximum allowed for this number of credits. So that clarifies it for you.
And maybe just to say that that includes like a total student effort. So that's not just sitting in front of your screen. Sorry, just in case, because I see another question coming in the chat box. That's not sitting in front of your screen or actually attending lectures. That's your total student effort. So that's everything from, you know, pre-reading, maybe post-reading, assessments, you know, reflective journal, you know, whatever the different parts of the individual assessment, meeting your groups, you know, it's the totality of the effort there. So maybe that helps clarify that one.
Also, Rosemary, the course, it was designed for people who are working, so it is a manageable workload.
Yeah.
And our past students have found it a manageable workload.
Yeah, you can attest to that. Yeah.
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 Thanks, Joanne. Is the course oversubscribed, and how will coordinators decide on successful candidates? I can take that unless somebody else wants to.
I mean, I'm happy to jump in.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we do have a selection committee, so every single application, that's a full application, I think that's important to say. So when all of the required documentation is received, all of them are assessed, whether it's an RPL candidate. So Jane mentioned that previously, if somebody doesn't present with the minimum entry requirement of a level 8 qualification, we look at them in terms of their past work experience under Trinity's RPL process. So every single application is assessed and reviewed individually, and decisions are made based on that. So the documentation that Jane went through earlier, things like your CV, obviously your parchment, your personal statement, your statement of interest as to why you want to do the program. You need to make that as relevant and as strong and as specific as possible to give yourself the very best. I suppose I often say to people, it's like applying for a job. You know, you don't know who you're up against, so you want your very best application to be in, because you want to be in the top 40 or whatever number of places or whatever that we have on offer. The course isn't oversubscribed at the moment, but every course that we've ran, I suppose just for the nature of it and the way it's funded, every program, every Springboard program that we've run over the last, and Jane has been involved in most of them, for the last probably 5 or 6 courses, we have been hugely oversubscribed. So the advice we would give to applicants is to get your application in as soon as you can.
Perfect. To just jump over to the chat again, one of our attendees asks if the course is suitable if one has a specific focus area in mind, specifically vertical farming, or is it more suitable to a generalist? Quentin, can I ask that one of you?
Sure, I think we've kind of answered this previously, and we said both, but
Yeah.
I can reiterate it again that, I mean, I mentioned the summer school I've worked on in previous years. Vertical farming is often a very popular topic for the student projects globally. I can think of some past student project ideas that have involved an aspect of like urban farming, vertical farming, sustainable food production, food systems, combating food poverty, food sharing. So, you know, it's a very interesting topic that's actually quite popular with our students on similar types of courses. If it's something that you're really passionate about and you can see developing this as a business idea, absolutely, yes, you know, come to the course with this idea in mind. And as I mentioned previously, be open to think about other possibilities and adopt new kind of softer transferable skills and meet like-minded individuals, because this is also about the cohort of the student group. You know, this is something that you all will have in common. You're coming from different backgrounds, and there's a lot of power in that, you know, in terms of joining a wider community with this common goal.
Absolutely. Peer-to-peer learning is such a huge part of all our courses at Tangent, and having that alumni, you know, to fall back on, or to work with each other after the course finishes is so helpful. Okay, I'm a textile designer and interested in taking this course to apply my interest into my coursework. Is that possible even with doing group work, if the project has nothing to do with my area of interest?
That's an interesting one. Actually, a few years ago, a textile designer did one of my courses in environmental sciences, and she was looking at sustainable production systems for non-fossil fuel based textile dyes. That was her project. So, you know, that's a really nice example how you can come from somewhere like a textile space and transfer into a climate entrepreneurship space. Absolutely. You can think about this in terms of sustainable production systems. If you're thinking about the carbon footprint of a process, let's say, and you make a shift from textile dyes or synthetic textiles, which are petroleum-based, fossil fuel-based, but you find some alternative which lowers the carbon footprint, then effectively what you've done is you found a solution to mitigate the effects of climate change. So, you know, when you have this mindset and you think about it in this way, you realize that virtually everything we do has some kind of climate impact or carbon footprint.
Thanks, Quentin. I know we're coming up to the hour now, so and we haven't gotten through all the questions, but we can post the questions out on social media, or I would really encourage you to come to springboard@tcd.ie and ask them of myself or one of my colleagues. Somebody here just says, I'm waiting on a last reference. Upload what you have. We can't see you on the system and we can't register your interest unless you upload what you have at least. And then when you do have that final reference, you can upload that last. But my advice to everybody here that is interested in applying, do so now, upload what you have and follow with the rest. You can submit your application and upload documents up until the closing date. So please do that so that we can register your interest in the system. Conscious that I don't want to keep anybody too long.
There's a couple of questions, Jane. I might be able to, or sorry, we might be able to answer a few of them together just in relation to applying. So some people are asking about a level 6, a level 7 qualification. If you have anything other than a level 8 qualification with a 2-1, you can apply absolutely, and you'll be assessed under the RPL application process. It takes longer, and that's an internal because just it goes to another committee after it goes to the selection committee. So you do need to get that application in as soon as possible. So the short answer is yes, level 6, level 7, yes, you can. You won't be assessed as a standard applicant, for want of a better word. But yes, absolutely. And again, you know, just to get the application in as soon as possible. All of the documentation that Jane mentioned, and they're all up on the Springboard website, need to be included before you're considered a full applicant. So that's the references, your CV, there's 6 different documents that we need. So all of them are a partial application won't be assessed. So all of them need to be there. Thanks.
Thanks, Rosemary. Ditto that. Okay. Can I do this course while also beginning another form of, oh yeah, sorry, I answered that. Demand is high for this course. How will you score rate applicants? So we're looking at suitability. We're looking at why you want to do the course and what you hope to do upon completion of the course. If you keep that in mind when you're writing your statement of interest, your references should speak to why you'd be a suitable candidate for the course. So really we're looking to find a diverse group of students who have, who we can look and see that they're suitable, content applies to them and that they will be a good addition to the course. So do get your application in. If you're not in, you can't win. I'm going to leave it there, Rosemary, unless you think we should go on. Just conscious of everybody's time and it's just gone past the hour.
Sure. We can answer, as you said, most of these. And if anybody has a specific question, certainly in relation to content, absolutely, but in relation to how to apply, springboard@tcd.ie, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and my number again, 086 032 0487. Give me a call or springboard@tcd.ie. And the best of luck with your applications. And thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to the panel, to Rosemary, to Quinton, to Joanne, and thank you to all our attendees tonight. It is a fantastic course. I'm very proud to be a part of it, and we look forward to receiving your applications, and best of luck with them.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks for your questions and best of luck with your applications.